Tom Walker stood at the main observation deck of Repair Station Delta 7, his calloused hands pressed against the reinforced glass as he watched another alien ship limp toward the docking bay. The massive structure of Delta 7 hung in space like a giant mechanical spider, its multiple repair arms extended outward, ready to embrace yet another broken vessel seeking help. "Another one incoming, Chief," said Bill, the young docking coordinator, his eyes fixed on the holographic display. "Their main drive is barely functioning." "It's amazing they made it this far." Tom nodded, studying the approaching vessel. Its sleek purple hull gleamed despite the visible damage to its port side. The ship was clearly of Centaurian design, beautiful, advanced, and currently about as useful as a broken clock. "Get Bay 4 ready," Tom ordered, running his fingers through his gray-streaked hair. "And tell Jack to bring his old toolbox. Something tells me we're going to need the basics for this one." The alien ship was at least 300 years more advanced than anything humans had built, yet here it was, crawling to a human repair station near Europa. The irony wasn't lost on Tom. 5 years ago, when humanity first joined the Galactic Council, other species had looked down on their primitive technology. Now those same species were lining up to get their ships fixed by humans. As the ship docked, Tom made his way down to Bay 4, his magnetic boots clicking against the metal floor. The station's artificial gravity was working fine, but old habits died hard. He'd learned early in his career that backup systems could save your life in space. The airlock cycled, and 3 Centaurians emerged. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, their crystalline skin refracting the bay's lights. The leader stepped forward, his translucent hands gesturing in distress. "Honorable human engineer," the alien's translator buzzed, "our quantum manifold has experienced a catastrophic misalignment. Our own engineers say it requires a complete replacement. We have heard that humans possess unusual repair abilities." Tom walked around the ship's damaged section, his experienced eyes taking in every detail. The Centaurians watched nervously as he pulled out an old tablet, not a holographic computer like theirs, but a simple touchscreen device. "Tell me," Tom said, "when did the problem start?" The Centaurians explained how their ship's quantum drive had started making strange noises during their last jump. Their engineers had run countless diagnostic programs, but the advanced AI systems couldn't pinpoint the issue. Tom knocked on different parts of the hull, pressing his ear against the metal. The Centaurians looked at each other in confusion. This wasn't the high-tech approach they had expected. "Bill," Tom called over his comm, "remember that issue we had with the Williams family's sailing boat last summer? The one that made that weird pinging noise?" "Yeah, Chief. Turned out to be a loose prop shaft bearing. But this is a quantum ship, not a boat." Tom smiled. "Physics is physics, no matter where you are. The principles don't change just because the technology does." He turned to the Centaurians. "Your quantum manifold isn't the problem. You've got a microfracture in your power delivery system. It's causing resonance issues that your computers read as manifold misalignment." The lead Centaurian's crystalline form flickered in surprise. "But our diagnostics. Sometimes you need to listen to the ship, not just the computers," Tom explained. "We can have this fixed in 2 days. No need for a new manifold." As the Centaurians huddled together, discussing the proposal in their musical language, Tom looked around the busy repair bay. 3 other alien ships were already being worked on. At the far end, Jack was teaching a group of tentacled mechanics how to use a simple wrench. That's what made humans special, Tom thought. Not their technology, but their understanding of it. Humans had climbed the technological ladder one step at a time, learning every squeak, ping, and rattle along the way. They hadn't skipped steps like many advanced species had. "We accept your assessment," the lead Centaurian announced. "Please proceed with the repairs." Tom nodded and clicked his comm. "Jack, bring your toolbox. And don't forget the WD-40. Something tells me we're going to need it." Another day at Delta 7 had begun, and Tom couldn't be prouder of humanity's unique place in the galaxy. The massive Galactic Federation warship cast a shadow over Delta 7 as it approached the repair station. Even with half its engines dead, the ship was an impressive sight. Mike Ross watched from the engineering bay, whistling at its size. "That's the biggest ship I've seen this month," he said to no one in particular, his hands automatically reaching for his trusty tool belt. The ship's arrival had caused quite a stir. Not only was it a military vessel, but it carried a team of the Federation's best engineers. They had already visited 3 other repair stations before coming to Delta 7, each one failing to fix their problem. "Mike," Tom's voice crackled over the comm. "Get to Bay 1. You're going to want to see this." When Mike arrived, he found Tom standing with 6 Federation engineers. Their sleek uniforms and advanced tablets made Mike's oil-stained coveralls look ancient in comparison. "The quantum core is beyond repair," one alien engineer was saying, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. "It needs complete replacement. The diagnostic AI is quite clear about this." Mike walked around the massive engine, his boots echoing in the chamber. Something about the sound caught his attention. He stopped, head tilted. "Mind if I take a look?" he asked, already pulling out his old magnetic stethoscope. The Federation engineers exchanged glances. One of them, clearly the leader, stepped forward. "Our quantum core operates on principles your species hasn't even discovered yet. No offense, but—" "Humor me," Mike interrupted, pressing the stethoscope against different parts of the engine housing. The sound reminded him of something, but he couldn't quite place it. Then it hit him. Last summer, he had visited his grandfather's farm. The old tractor had made a similar noise when its timing was off. Different machine, same principles. "The quantum core isn't your problem," Mike said, straightening up. "You've got a timing issue. The power flow is out of sync." The alien engineers burst into technical arguments, their translator devices struggling to keep up. Mike ignored them and walked to his toolbox, pulling out what looked like an old car timing light, modified with bits of alien tech. "This is impossible," the lead engineer protested. "Our diagnostics show." "When was the last time any of you fixed something without a computer telling you how?" Mike asked, attaching his device to the engine housing. The readings confirmed his suspicion. "Look," he explained, pointing to the display. "Your quantum core is fine, but the power flow timing is off by 0.003 seconds. It's like an old engine missing its timing. All the parts are good, they're just not working together right." The Federation engineers crowded around his simple device, their expressions moving from doubt to surprise. "But fixing this would require recalibrating the entire power distribution system," one said. "It would take months." Mike shook his head. "Not if we do it the human way." He reached into his toolbox and pulled out what looked like a mix between a wrench and a tuning fork. "My grandfather taught me that sometimes the old ways are the best ways. We can have you running in 3 days." 3 days. The lead engineer's translator crackled with disbelief. "That's impossible." "Think about it," Mike said, already starting to work. "Your computers are telling you to replace everything because that's the proper solution. But sometimes you don't need to replace the whole engine when you can just adjust the timing." Tom watched from the doorway, smiling as Mike began explaining his repair plan to the increasingly interested alien engineers. One of them was taking notes with an actual pencil, something they'd picked up from the human crew. "How did you know?" the lead engineer asked, watching Mike work. "Our most advanced AI couldn't identify the problem." Mike thought about his grandfather's farm, about long summer days spent fixing old machinery with basic tools and lots of patience. "Sometimes," he said, adjusting his device, "the best way to understand a machine isn't to scan it with computers. It's to listen to it, feel it, and remember that no matter how advanced technology gets, the basic principles stay the same." As he worked, more Federation engineers gathered to watch. They saw how he combined their advanced tools with simple human instruments, creating solutions their computers had never considered. In the end, It took Mike 2.5 days to fix the ship, a repair that saved the Federation months of work and millions in resources. As the warship prepared to leave, the lead engineer approached Mike with an unusual request. "Would you," he asked hesitantly, "be willing to teach us some of these old ways?" Mike grinned. "Bring your toolbox tomorrow. We'll start with the basics." Dr. Blue, as the humans called him, since his real name was unpronounceable, sat in the corner of Repair Station Delta 7's main workshop, his 6 eyes recording everything he saw. As the station's first alien anthropologist, he had spent 3 months studying why humans were so good at repairs. Today, he watched as a young human mechanic named Pete fixed an alien ship's gravity generator using nothing but a rubber mallet and something the humans called percussive maintenance. "Fascinating," Dr. Blue muttered into his recorder. "They hit it in exactly the right spot, with exactly the right force. No calculations, no computers, just intuition." The gravity generator hummed to life. Its alien owner clicked its mandibles in amazement. "How do you know where to hit it?" the alien asked Pete. Pete shrugged. "You get a feel for it after a while. Like knowing how hard to knock on someone's door. Not too soft, not too hard, just right." Dr. Blue's recording tentacle wiggled with excitement. This was exactly the kind of insight he was looking for. Later that day, he sat in Tom Walker's office, sharing his observations. The chief engineer listened while fixing an old pocket watch, a habit Dr. Blue had noticed many humans had, always keeping their hands busy with something mechanical. "Your species is unique," Dr. Blue said, "because you never forgot your roots. Most advanced races jump from one technology level to the next, discarding the old ways. But humans keep everything." Tom nodded, adjusting a tiny gear in the watch. "My grandfather taught me to fix watches. Said if you can understand how a simple machine works, you can figure out any machine." "Exactly." Dr. Blue's color shifted to excited purple. "In my studies, I've noticed that humans still use tools from every stage of their development. You have quantum computers, yet you still keep screwdrivers. You have AI diagnostics, but you still use your ears to listen to engines." As if to prove his point, they watched through the office window as Mike Ross diagnosed a problem with an alien ship's engine by pressing an old stethoscope against its hull. "Other species see technology as layers of advancement," Dr. Blue continued. "When they move up a layer, they forget the one below. But humans see technology as a tree, with each new advancement growing from old roots." Tom smiled, remembering something. "Last week, we had a ship with a broken quantum navigation system. Know how we fixed it?" Jack noticed it was making the same noise his old truck made when the transmission was slipping. "Different technology, same principle." Dr. Blue's tentacles waved in excitement as he recorded this. "This is what makes humans special. You understand machines at their most basic level. Other species know how to operate their technology. Humans know how to listen to it, feel it, understand it." Their conversation was interrupted by an emergency call. A cargo ship had arrived with its AI systems completely dead. As they hurried to the repair bay, Dr. Blue watched the humans spring into action. Instead of immediately reaching for advanced diagnostic tools, they started with basics. They looked, listened, touched. They used simple tools first, working their way up to more complex solutions only when needed. "Look here," Tom told the cargo ship's captain, pointing to a simple electrical connection. "Your AI isn't broken. It's just not getting power because this basic connector is loose. Sometimes the simplest answer is the right one." Dr. Blue recorded everything, especially noting how the alien captain's expression changed from skepticism to amazement as the humans fixed his ship in minutes instead of days. That evening, as Dr. Blue finished his daily report, he added a special note. "Perhaps the greatest strength of humans isn't their advanced technology or their repair stations. It's their understanding that all technology, no matter how advanced, follows the same basic principles they learned while fixing primitive machines." He watched through his window as a group of alien engineers gathered around Jack, who was teaching them how to use simple hand tools. The aliens awkwardly held wrenches and screwdrivers, tools their species had forgotten centuries ago. In teaching us their primitive ways, Dr. Blue recorded his final thoughts for the day. Humans are actually teaching us something profound. Sometimes you need to understand the past to fix the future. The line of ships waiting to dock at Delta 7 stretched out into space like a glittering chain of holiday lights. Tom Walker stood at his usual spot on the observation deck, shaking his head at the sight. "We're going to need a bigger station," Bill said, updating the waiting list on his tablet. "That's the 15th ship today, and it's only morning." Tom knew they had to do something. The repair station's success was becoming its biggest problem. Word had spread across the galaxy about the humans' repair skills, and now everyone wanted their ships fixed the human way. "Get everyone to the main workshop," Tom told Bill. "I have an idea." An hour later, Tom faced his team and a group of alien engineers who had become regular visitors to the station. The workshop was crowded with beings of all shapes and sizes, some floating, some standing, some hanging from the ceiling. "We can't keep up with demand," Tom said simply. "So we're going to try something new. We're going to teach you our methods." A ripple of excitement moved through the alien crowd. A floating cloud of purple gas formed itself into words. "You would share your repair secrets." "They're not really secrets," Tom replied. "Just basic principles that every human mechanic learns. Starting tomorrow, each of our human engineers will take on 3 alien apprentices." The next day, the workshop looked more like a school. Jack was teaching a group of crystalline beings how to use basic hand tools. Some of them struggled to hold a wrench with their geometric appendages, but they kept trying. "Feel the weight of it," Jack explained. "A wrench isn't just a tool. It's an extension of your hand." In another corner, Mike Ross was explaining the concept of percussive maintenance to a group of gaseous aliens who had no concept of solid matter. Sometimes, he demonstrated, hitting a broken panel in just the right spot. You have to speak the machine's language. And sometimes, that language is a gentle tap. The aliens watched in amazement as the panel sparked to life. One of the gas beings formed itself into a question mark. "But how do you know where to hit it?" "Practice," Mike said, grinning. "And lots of mistakes. That's something else we humans learned. You have to be willing to make mistakes to learn." In the tool room, Pete was introducing a group of multi-limbed aliens to WD-40 and duct tape. Their eye stalks waved in confusion. "You mean to tell us," one asked, "that this simple, sticky material can fix advanced technology?" "Sometimes the old solutions are the best solutions," Pete explained, using duct tape to seal a leaking quantum coolant pipe. "See, holding perfectly." Not everything went smoothly. Some alien species struggled with human concepts. The hive-mind insects couldn't understand why they needed individual tools when they could just reshape their bodies. The energy beings had trouble with physical repairs. But they all kept trying, learning from their mistakes just as humans had done throughout their history. By the end of the first week, something amazing happened. A Centaurian ship came in with engine trouble, and before any humans could reach it, 3 alien apprentices had already diagnosed and fixed the problem using basic tools and human methods. Tom watched from his office as more success stories followed. The aliens were not just learning to repair things. They were learning to think like human engineers, to understand machines at their most basic level. "Look at that," he told Dr. Blue, who was still recording everything. They watched as a group of alien apprentices worked together to fix a complicated drive system, combining their new human repair knowledge with their own advanced understanding. "They're doing better than we expected," Tom said proudly. Dr. Blue's recording tentacle wiggled. "Of course they are. You humans aren't just teaching them to fix machines. You're teaching them to understand them, to listen to them, to feel them." As Tom looked around the busy workshop, he saw the future taking shape. Aliens of all species working together, sharing knowledge, combining the best of human practical skills with advanced alien technology. Maybe, he said, watching a young alien successfully use a screwdriver for the first time. This is what we humans were meant to teach the galaxy. Not just how to fix things, but how to understand them from the ground up. The workshop hummed with activity, a symphony of tools, voices, and machines coming together in perfect harmony. Red emergency lights flashed throughout Delta 7 as Tom Walker ran to the main control room. The royal vessel of the Star Empire drifted in space, its golden hull darkened by power failures. Warning signals blared from every console. "Status report," Tom called out as he entered the control room. Bill looked up from his screens, his face pale. "It's bad, Chief. Their main reactor is going critical. They'd got about 2 hours before it fails completely." The Star Empire was one of the oldest and most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. Their ships were considered works of art, built with technology so advanced that most species couldn't even understand it. "They're requesting emergency docking," Bill continued. "But there's a problem. Their royal engineers refuse to let us touch their sacred technology." Tom watched the ship's readings getting worse by the minute. "Get me a communication line." The main screen lit up, showing a tall, elegant alien wearing ornate robes. Golden circuits ran through his skin, marking him as a royal engineer. "This is Chief Engineer Walker of Delta 7, Tom said. "We can help you." The royal engineer's expression hardened. "We appreciate your offer, primitive one, but our technology is beyond your understanding. We merely request safe harbor while we attempt repairs ourselves." "With all respect," Tom replied, trying to stay calm, "your reactor will fail in less than 2 hours. I can see the readings from here." "Our technology is sacred," the royal engineer snapped. "It has been perfected over 10,000 years. We will not let untrained hands defile it." Tom took a deep breath. "Your reactor's containment field is failing because of a power surge in your auxiliary systems. We've seen this problem before." This caught the royal engineer's attention. "Impossible. How could you know this?" "Because machines follow the same basic rules, no matter how advanced they are," Tom explained. "Your power readings show the same pattern we saw in a cargo ship last month. Different technology, same problem." The ship shuddered visibly on the screen. Warning alarms grew louder. 1 hour, 40 minutes to critical failure, Bill announced. Tom looked directly at the royal engineer. "You can stick to your pride and lose your ship, or you can let us help. Your choice." Long seconds passed. The royal engineer's golden circuits pulsed as he thought. "Very well," he finally said. "But I warn you, if you damage our sacred technology, we'll take full responsibility." Tom interrupted. He was already moving. "Mike, Jack, get to Bay 1 with your teams. Pete, bring the basic diagnostic kit." The royal ship docked with 20 minutes to spare. When the airlock opened, Tom and his team faced a dozen royal engineers, all wearing the same ornate robes with glowing circuits. "This way," Tom said, leading them to the reactor room. The ship's technology was indeed amazing. Crystalline structures pulsed with energy. Holographic controls floated in the air. But underneath all that beauty, Tom could hear the familiar sound of a machine in trouble. "There," he pointed to a simple power coupling. "That's your problem." The royal engineers stared at the coupling in disbelief. "That's impossible," one said. "That's just a basic power transfer unit. Our diagnostics show the problem is much more complex." "Sometimes the biggest problems have the simplest causes," Tom said. He pulled out an old voltmeter. "Watch." The meter's reading confirmed his suspicion. The coupling was overloading, causing a cascade failure through the advanced systems. "Mike," Tom called, "bring me the bypass kit." The royal engineers watched in shock as Tom's team used simple tools to fix their advanced technology. Within an hour, the reactor stabilized. "How?" the lead royal engineer asked, his circuits pulsing with confusion. "Our most advanced diagnostic systems couldn't find this." "Because you were looking for a complex problem. Tom explained, wiping his hands on a rag. Sometimes you need to step back and look at the basics. Every machine, no matter how advanced, still follows the simple rules of power and energy. The Royal Engineers huddled together, discussing in their musical language. Finally, their leader turned to Tom. "We were wrong," he admitted. Perhaps our technology is not as perfect as we thought. Would you be willing to teach us your methods?" Tom smiled. "That's what we're here for. Lesson 1 starts tomorrow, if you're willing to learn from some primitives." The Royal Engineer actually smiled back. "It seems we have much to learn about true wisdom." The Royal Vessel's repair had changed everything at Delta 7. As Tom Walker worked on the ship's systems, he began to notice something fascinating about alien technology. Each species built their machines differently based on their home worlds and evolution. One morning, Tom gathered his team and their alien apprentices in the main workshop. Parts from different alien ships lay on tables around them. "Look at these engines," Tom said, pointing to various pieces. "Each one tells us something about the species that built it." Mike Ross picked up a crystalline power core from a Centaurian ship. "Their technology is all about precision and order," he explained, "just like their crystalline bodies." "Exactly," Tom agreed. "And look at this." He pointed to an engine part from a gas-being ship. "Their technology flows and changes shape, just like they do. We've been fixing their machines without understanding why they built them this way." Dr. Blue floated nearby, all 6 eyes recording everything. "This is a breakthrough," he exclaimed. "You're not just fixing machines, you're understanding cultures." Tom nodded. "The Star Empire builds beautiful, complex machines because they value tradition and art. The Hive species build modular systems because they think like a collective. Every species builds based on how they see the world." The workshop buzzed with excitement as everyone began sharing observations. A crystalline engineer explained how their perfect geometric shapes reflected their logical thinking. A gas being demonstrated how their flexible technology matched their fluid nature. "But humans," the Royal Engineer said, having stayed to learn more, "your repair methods work on all our different technologies." "How?" Tom walked over to his old toolbox. "Because we learned to adapt. Earth has so many different environments. We had to learn to fix things in all kinds of ways. Desert, ocean, Arctic. Each place needed different solutions." He picked up a wrench. "This simple tool can fix a water pump in a desert, adjust a solar panel in the Arctic, or repair a boat engine at sea. We learned to work with what we had." Pete, who was teaching a group of energy beings about mechanical joints, added, "It's like learning different languages. Once you understand the basics, you can talk to anyone." As they worked together, the aliens began sharing stories about their home worlds. The crystalline beings talked about their cities of living crystal, where geometry and function were one. The gas beings described their floating cloud communities, where nothing was solid, but everything worked in harmony. Tom listened to all these stories, understanding more with each one. "Every species developed technology that made sense for their world," he said. "We're not just fixing machines here. We're learning to speak each other's technical languages." The Royal Engineer, who had once called humans primitive, was now carefully taking apart an old Earth car engine. "I see now," he said, golden circuits pulsing with excitement. "Your primitive technology taught you to understand machines at their most basic level. We advanced too quickly, lost touch with the fundamentals." Later that day, a new ship arrived with an unusual problem. Its systems were a mix of technologies from different species, something that had become more common as cultures shared knowledge. "Now this," Tom said with a smile, "is interesting." His team gathered around, humans and aliens working together. The crystalline engineers understood the logical systems, the gas beings knew the flow dynamics, and the humans knew how to make it all work together. "It's like a conversation," Mike said as they worked. Each part speaking its own language, but all saying the same thing. In just a few hours, they had the ship running better than ever. Its hybrid systems weren't fighting each other anymore. but working in harmony. Dr. Blue's recording tentacle moved frantically. "This is more than repair work," he said. "This is cultural exchange at its finest. Through fixing machines, you're building bridges between species." Tom looked around his workshop. Humans and aliens of all kinds worked side by side, sharing tools and knowledge, learning from each other. The repair station had become more than just a place to fix ships. It was a place where different cultures came together and understood each other, one repair at a time. "Maybe," Tom said, watching a human teach a gas being how to use a screwdriver, while the gas being taught the human about flow dynamics. "This is what we were meant to do all along. Not just fix machines, but help fix the gaps between us all." 5 years had passed since the royal ship incident. Tom Walker stood at his favorite spot on Delta 7's observation deck, but now the view was very different. The repair station had grown to 3 times its original size, with new docks stretching out like giant metal flowers in space. "Message from the Galactic Engineering Academy, Chief," Bill said, walking up beside him. "They want you to give another lecture series on human repair techniques." Tom smiled. These days, the most prestigious engineering schools in the galaxy all taught what they called the human approach. It had become a required course for every engineering student. "Remember when they used to call us primitive?" Tom asked, watching a group of alien apprentices practicing with basic hand tools in the zero-gravity training area. "Hard to believe that was just 5 years ago," Bill replied. "Now look at us." The repair station had become famous across the galaxy, but not just for fixing ships. It had become a symbol of how different species could work together and learn from each other. In Bay 4, Mike Ross was teaching a mixed group of aliens about Earth's history of mechanics. He had set up an old car engine next to a quantum drive. "See this carburetor?" Mike pointed to the car part. "The principles we learned fixing these simple machines still help us understand your advanced technology today." The aliens took notes eagerly. Some used tablets, others recorded directly into their bodies, but they all paid close attention. These days, understanding primitive technology was considered advanced education. Jack walked by, leading a tour group from the Star Empire. Their golden circuits glowed with interest as he showed them the station's tool museum, a collection of human tools from different eras of Earth's history. "This hammer," Jack explained, holding up an old tool, "is basically the same design humans used thousands of years ago, because some principles never change." Tom made his way to the main workshop, where the biggest change was visible. Humans and aliens worked side by side at workbenches, each bringing their own knowledge and skills. The workshop had become a place where species learned from each other. A crystalline being was teaching the human about geometric power alignments while learning about mechanical leverage in return. A gas being showed others how to understand flow dynamics while they taught it about solid-state repairs. "Chief Walker," Dr. Blue floated over, still recording everything after all these years. "The historical archives are almost complete. 5 years of human repair methods, all documented for future generations." Tom nodded. The archives would help spread human repair knowledge across the galaxy, but they weren't the station's greatest achievement. That honor belonged to something else. In the apprentice workshop, Tom watched young engineers from 100 different species learning together. They didn't care about who was primitive or advanced anymore. They only cared about understanding how things worked and helping each other learn. "Chief," a voice called. It was the royal engineer who had once looked down on human technology. Now he was one of their most dedicated students. "Would you check my work on this repair?" Tom looked at the broken device. The royal engineer had fixed it using a mix of advanced technology and simple human tools, exactly the kind of combination they encourage. "Perfect," Tom said. "You've learned well." "We all had to learn," the royal engineer replied, his circuits glowing with pride. "To admit that simple solutions can be the best solutions. That understanding basics is as important as having advanced technology." Later that day, Tom sat in his office, looking at an old photograph of Delta 7 from when it first opened. The small, simple repair station had grown into something much more important, a place where species came together and learned from each other. Message from the Galactic Council. Bill's voice came over the comm. They want to make Delta 7's training program the standard for all repair stations in the galaxy. Tom looked out his window at the busy repair base, at humans and aliens working together, sharing knowledge, solving problems. This was humanity's real gift to the galaxy, not just the ability to fix machines, but the understanding that every piece of knowledge, whether old or new, simple or advanced, had value. "You know what, Bill?" Tom said, watching a young alien successfully use a wrench for the first time. "I think we've built something even more important than a repair station here. We've built a bridge between species, one repair at a time."